It's not the dead zone because you still have NBA going on. You have March Madness, which is coming up. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. There is no such thing as a dead zone. You got pitchers and catchers reporting very soon. Oh, and then I didn't get a chance to text you and tell you I went to the Cleveland Sports Awards last week and talked to Charlie Nagy, who said he'd be a guest on our show. Talked to
Yeah,
Kenny Lofton, who said he would be a guest on our show. Talked to Reef
I will,
Laws,
fan
who said
girl.
he
I down to the so I will wear my Kenny Lofton jersey.
and I told Kenny, I was like, this is the contact information that you gave me the last time, and I reached out to you, and you didn't hit me back. He was like, okay, I got you this time now. So yeah, yeah. But I used to love Charlie Nagy. If I could get Albert Bell, oh my god, oh my god,
Oh,
I was like,
not
I
Joe
hit the top
Bell.
of my peak.
You
I would
want
be so
Albert, not
happy to have
Joey?
him on.
I know you would be so happy. I mean, I guess it's a dead zone for sports if you don't have a good basketball team.
Yeah, but we do.
But we do. We
So I
do.
don't know what they was talking about.
Yep. Must not have been someone local. It's okay.
Hmm I
There are
don't know if it was.
people.
I can't remember.
Football is the only sport, and while I love football, it is not the only sport, and there are plenty of other things worth watching throughout the rest of the year. So I like this time of year. It's
Yeah,
less
so let's get into
emotionally
it.
stressful on me.
What'd you say?
This time of year is less emotionally stressful on me when it comes to sports.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. The Cleveland Browns are officially, if they haven't already been before, they're a cluster. So the organization, the man who's been here for 8 seasons, who's kind of witnessed the highs and the very, very lows going on in 16, his first season. Miles Garrett, who has come to love this city, came to love, being in Cleveland. Because I remember when he was coming out, he wanted to be drafted by Jerry Jones and be a Dallas Cowboy, albeit, he was from Texas. So I could kind of understand wanting to go to the hometown team, even though they're not good as well. But I can understand that hometown tie. And he was not drafted there. He was drafted to the Cleveland Browns, and he's been able to make 3 playoff appearances with this team. And outside of that, it's just been a life of misery as a Cleveland Browns football player. And Miles put out there he's did a lot of consulting with LeBron James. And when you hear about LeBron consulting with LeBron James, I knew then that he was going to want to go. LeBron has, had no qualms about leaving and going to another city to get championships and get things done because Cleveland didn't do enough to keep him. Sadly, unfortunately, he did win us a title though, so we do have that title. But Miles Garrett, the foundation of this team said he wants to be traded, Kate. And what are your thoughts about that?
So, so let's start with LeBron, right?
Yeah.
Had LeBron stayed, I don't know that we ever would have won a championship. I think his leaving got him the championship he needed to get so that he could come back to Cleveland, and whether he won one or not, at least he tried, but he had one. The team and ownership needed him to go so they could take a very hard reality check look at that team, get the pieces they needed so that when LeBron came back, they were in a position to win a championship. I do not believe for a second if he had stayed here and not taken his talents to South Beach, I don't know that we would have ever won a championship because I don't think
Probably
they would have gotten the message. When it comes to the Browns, so Miles Garrett wants a trade. He wants to go to a contender. I get it. I understand it. I feel bad because I do think he'd like to go to Dallas, but they're not a contender either. They're not any closer to the Super Bowl than we are. We may have only had 3 wins last year, and they may have had a lot more, but that's a hot mess down in Dallas. You don't want no part of that. The Browns were kind enough to, trade Amari Cooper to the Bills. They let Kareem Hunt go, who signed on back with the Chiefs, who did him dirty, and he still went back to work for them. He got to play in the Super Bowl last night. There are an awful lot of former Browns in the league who got traded to better situations.
Odell Beckham.
Yeah, Odell Beckham Jr. Baker Mayfield ultimately took him a while, ended up in a much better place, right? So I understand where he's coming from. I like Miles as a person well enough to say If you don't have faith that this this front office has the right plan to make this team a contender in the next 2 years, then you need to go. This idea Andrew Berry has of we're going to take someone from Cleveland to Kansas, we did that to Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas played his entire
Mm-hmm.
career here, and he is in the Hall of Fame, and he don't have a championship. He don't have one deep into the playoffs. He don't have an AFC championship. He has nothing except a career and a gold jacket. If Miles wants a championship, and he doesn't think he can get it here, I believe him. And I'm more concerned about what the front office plan is than Miles saying he wants to go. Because to me, him saying he wants to go means their plan is not the right plan. And that's the plan you and I have to live with. Mm-hmm. Miles can go somewhere else and be happy and find a new home. We are stuck with a plan that Miles couldn't get behind. He has been not only a stellar human being, his work in the community, his work with animals and stuff, the dog, he goes to the dog park and talks to fans. He has also been very quiet. The way when we had that whole situation, and you and I were there with the Steelers and Mason Rudolph and the helmet and all of that, he took his punishment. He kept his mouth shut. He kept his head down. He went back to work, and he was amazing and classy through all of that. So how bad must it be for him to feel he needed to go to the public and say, I want to get traded? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to let him go. We need to accept that his best years are behind him. He's got maybe 3 years at that position, barring another injury, 3 years to play at the level he's playing at now. Dude, go get you a ring. Go get at least a taste of success, at least an AFC championship or an NFC championship. There are a lot of teams that I saw in the playoffs who could have used him. He could have been a difference maker. You saw what that Philly defense did last night. He could have been a difference maker for the Washington Commanders, for the Minnesota Vikings. I'd hate to see him go in division. But the Ravens are closer to a championship than either Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. Although part of me thinks Miles in Cincinnati would get them where they need to get. They had some serious defensive issues. I mean, there are just a lot of places that would love to have him that are legit contenders. So I hope he goes somewhere good. It makes me sad to think that, you know what, the Browns are going to take a quarterback in the draft. And in my opinion, it's completely the wrong move. In the last 10 years, when it comes time for the Browns to draft, I tell everybody who I think they could take. The only person they've taken, literally the only person they've picked in the last 10 years in the first round that I wanted them to take was Myles Garrett.
Well, Andrew Berry's brother is the GM for, I forgot what his first name is. He's the GM for Philly. So, could that be a possible landing point for, Myles Garrett? He's pretty much been an exemplary citizen outside of what happened, with Miles Rudolph. No, what is his name? Mason Rudolph.
So
outside of that.
Does Philly need him? I saw what their defense did last night. First of all, do they need him? Are they willing to pay him? And thirdly, I feel like they came into that game last night having this whole season, having something to prove, having a giant chip on their shoulder, mentally and emotionally needing to get one over on Kansas City. I don't know if they'll have that same intensity next year. I don't know that they'll get back to the Super Bowl next year, because I think there was a lot going on this year to get them there, and they expended a lot of emotional energy on this season in that game. I don't know that would be my first choice. You know what I mean?
I'm just thinking of some contenders. I mean, you could do him, trade him to Detroit like you did Zadarius. But I mean, Miles is brought into Cleveland.
Trade him to Minnesota for Sam Darnold.
Huh?
I'd trade him to Minnesota for Sam Darnold, because then the Browns could either go get me Travis Hunter, which is the right thing to do it to, or they can take a quarterback that doesn't have to start this year, and you can get a year of Sam Darnold. I'd trade him to the Vikings for Sam Darnold.
Okay, I see you. Like, Miles was bought into Cleveland, bought part ownership of the Cavs. I'd be sad to see him go. He's been Cleveland, the face of Cleveland for,
Yeah,
a few years now. And, at the end of the day, he doesn't want to play here anymore. Wrote a very nice letter, saying why he doesn't want to play here.
not about
He went,
us. It's
huh?
not. It's not about us. Fans are great.
Yeah.
He
I don't
living
take
here,
it personal. I
right?
don't take it personal.
But your
And
job
he
is your job, and if you don't believe in the mission, vision, and values of your employer, then you need to go. You can't. He can always come back here to live when he doesn't have to work for them.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely. And that's
he
one of the
absolutely
things,
has
like you
relationships
said.
with people, with other athletes, like you said, with the Cavaliers. He has relationships here that are worth coming back for. But needs to have a job that's going to take him somewhere.
But even still, like you said, you don't feel comfortable about the vision for the future. If they weren't able to sell him, if Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski was not able to sell him on what the future looked like for this
Right.
upcoming season for this organization, then there are a lot of concerns. As far as who they're
Yeah,
drafting, you think they should draft Travis Hunter?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Travis,
they need help with
he's a
receiving too.
He's a generational talent. We have so many holes right now. He's a generational talent. He can play wide receiver, although I'd probably bump him up to tight end. He can play corner. He can play both at the same time. Like his athleticism and his skill set, we watched him. So I do a podcast on Wednesdays, the Archer Football Podcast. We do the college edition on. We did that this year was our inaugural season, and the very first week, Sonia, Michelle, and I each picked a player that we were going to keep an eye on all season. And Travis Hunter was Michelle's player. And so we watched every single Colorado game we could. We watched him all season. I was drooling for that man week 4. Like I I don't know how you pass him up. If you need a quarterback that bad, you talk to the Patriots and trade down to 3 so you can still take him. Like I just if this was a strong quarterback, if this was a Bryce Young and CJ Stroud class or a Mariota and Winston class, even the year Baker came out, you had Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen. You had all kinds of options. There are 2 in this draft, Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders, and I don't think either one of them should be starting week 1. I think they both need a little more time, a little more seasoning to figure out some things. And it's not nothing against them. I just don't think they're
The
NFL
situation. It's the situation.
right. And you take them 1 or 2. If you're going to take a quarterback 1 or 2, they better be starting week 1. And I don't know that either of them can. And so with the Browns being the Browns and the number of quarterbacks we have been through, I would much rather take a quarterback top high that I'm sure is going to be good. So go get me Sam Darnold. Go get me Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins or somebody for a year. And then let's look at next year's quarterback class. Much bigger, much more talented quarterback class next year than there is this year. Travis Hunter will be amazing no matter what you put around him. That's
But with
I'm not
Travis Hunter, is
argument.
he
They're going to take a quarterback at 2 and that's it. But I wouldn't.
with Travis Hunter, is he going to have to play one side of the ball in the pros, or you think he
He like
can realistically do both?
he can realistically do both. It depends on the coaching staff and what they want to do with him. They could train him, coach him up to be one way or the other, but I don't know why you would do that. He played both sides in every game this year, never got winded, never caught as many balls average in the last game of the season as he was averaging all of the season, getting interceptions, causing people to not be able to, blocking receptions from the receivers at corner. He was just as effective that last week of the year as he was the first. So he isn't getting tired. We see a lot of these guys. Rachel, we see a lot of these rookies come in, and by week 12, 13, they're like, I'm tired. Anthony Richardson, I'm tired. This is such a long season. I'm just so tired. You're not going to hear that from him because he's used to playing the whole game.
Yeah.
Now,
Wait
I
till
don't
they
want
go
that,
to 18 games.
but you have that option.
Uh-huh.
And maybe it's a new, we've seen it a lot, right? Tight ends didn't used to be much. And then you get a Gronk and you get who was that guy that was down in Jimmy Graham down in New Orleans? You had a couple of superstars not that long ago. And all of a sudden the tight end position isn't just about blocking. It's also about catching. and it kind of changes the way the tight end position's played. And when they get franchise tagged, they want wide receiver money, not tight end money, because the tight ends are still trying to catch up on that pay scale. You see trends that happen in college or with one or two teams where all of a sudden colleges are teaching their guys to do this, that, or the other to make them more draftable. I think the Travis Hunter experiment will go very well for whoever takes him. I think you're going to start to see more of these players instead of being discouraged from playing both sides when they go to college like they have been coming out of high school. There's a lot of them. Instead of being discouraged, colleges are going to encourage them to be a wide receiver and a corner because it's going to make them more draftable. And I think you're going to see more of that in the NFL. And if a coach knows how to use them wisely, when we talk about the Cavaliers, we talk about how wisely Kenny Atkinson is using that lineup, that nobody's getting over 30 minutes, that he's balancing the load, that he's got 10 players and not 5, right? He doesn't have to put them on a pitch count or a snap count because ain't nobody rolling, 40 some minutes every week and they're so tired they can't stand it. He's balancing them out. If you can find the right football coach to balance them out, you don't have to be on every snap on offense and every snap on defense, but you can find a way. Look at what Kansas City did this year with Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy was by far the fastest receiver at the NFL draft last year. If he was 165 pounds and I'm 800, dude don't weigh nothing dripping wet. I said, he is going to get hit by a corner week 1 and be out for the season. But the Chiefs figured out how to use him in situations and how to put him in situations that go with his speed, get Mahomes enough protection for him to get long. He didn't take those hits. Travis Hunter needs that same kind of coach. He needs that same kind of offensive coordinator who knows how to maximize his skill set without overusing him, tiring him out, and getting him hurt. I don't know if we have the right OC for that. Maybe he's better off not coming here and going to a team that will take better care of him and will nurture that talent that he has instead of grinding him into the dust in 5 weeks. So maybe we're better off. I think in light of the Myles Garrett situation, I do not have any faith that they're going to draft the right person no matter who they take it to.
I agree with you. I feel the same way. And you hear David Njoku was doing the rounds at Radio Row on this weekend, and he was like, "Stay, Miles, stay," because remember, a couple years ago he wanted to be traded as well, and obviously, they got to the playoffs and stuff like that. But David Njoku is so inconsistent himself, so I'm surprised he still got a job. But
Listen, well, because his numbers are good, because the rest of the team's numbers are bad, right? When Jameis is in, his numbers are good. I don't know what they're going to do about that this year. The only way Miles stays is if the front office changes the plan that they pitch to him. Don't just say you're going to do something different. Take his concerns to heart. Rethink your plan to rebuild this team and make it a contender. You have enough pieces that we should be challenging for the division next year. This isn't some 3-win team who's years away and needs to completely rebuild. It just needs stability at the quarterback position and maybe 1 or 2 other pieces that you can get in the draft or free agency. If you can figure out what that plan should be and pitch it to Miles in a way that Miles believes, then he may decide he doesn't want to be drafted and doesn't want to be traded. But I don't know how, if you do nothing, you think you can go into the next season with a healthy locker room if Miles has asked to be traded and you have said no.
All right, we got to take a break really quickly. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
What?
Damn. All right, welcome back to Her and the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. Remember, keep it locked here on your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. All right, you can always download the app, the WOVU app, and take it with you on the go. And then don't forget as well, you can listen to us online at WOVU.org. So I got Cleveland Kate with me, and we are discussing the Cleveland Brown situation. It's just like a soap opera as the world turns, and it just gets messy every episode. And before we went to break, Kate, one of the things I was going to say is that this is part of the cycle where the Cleveland Browns might be good for one season, and then 4 or 5 seasons later, we have this that we're dealing with. Like 2020, we were good during the pandemic, and then 2024, by the grace of God and some crazy quarterbacking, we made it back to the playoffs, got our butts whooped. But we showed promise, and everybody thought that we would contend this year with Deshaun Watson coming back as quarterback, and it just wasn't meant to be, another, serious, injury to end his season, just like last year. And maybe Miles feels like they can't get it done with Deshaun as well as quarterback. So, that might be another reason why he's leaving. But I don't know. I feel like Deshaun Watson has quarterbacked probably his last Cleveland Browns game, this season. And in that situation, hasn't worked out so well. So, it's no telling what they said to Miles, no matter, it doesn't, who knows what they tried to sell him, but it just wasn't enough. And he decided he wants to move on. And I certainly respect that. And, people can make as many pleas as they want to, but I don't take this personal. And we all know at the end of the day, this is a business, and Miles would be traded without, any, he would be traded his career just like, work. You can be fired at any time, and employees can go anytime. Ohio is an at will state. So so it is what it is. And, I wish nothing but the best for Miles. But, let's go ahead and talk about that Super Bowl, Kate. It was part of studded fanfare, celebrities everywhere. Taylor Swift, Donald Trump decided to show up, and it was a blowout. I feel like Kansas City Chiefs came into that game thinking that they were going to win it. They didn't have to do nothing, and they were going to win it just because they're pretty much the Kansas City Chiefs. And they did not. And like you said earlier in the show, Philadelphia showed up with this mindset. Nick Sirianni said that the loss in 2023 by just a few points because of a call at the very end, weighed heavily on them when it came to this Super Bowl. So, did you enjoy the Super Bowl last night? Okay. Let's see what's going on right here. We'll get Cleveland Kate back in a second. She can't hear me. I don't know if I can't hear her. I don't know if she can hear me. She went out for a second. She's gonna come back in. But lots of fanfare with the Super Bowl, and it was a blowout from the very beginning. Patrick Mahomes could not get anything going, and you were looking for some Mahomes magic, because even at when they were 24-0 down, I still felt like Kansas City could come back.
Exactly. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I never, until maybe the beginning of the fourth quarter, is when I finally felt like Philly got this. Because I've seen too much Chiefs ball, and I was laughing because there was a whole lot of talk this week. I guess somebody in the media asked Roger Goodell if, said, a lot of the fans think that the referees are biased for the Chiefs. and that
Mhm.
there's all these calls that go the Chiefs' way and that Patrick Mahomes gets deferential treatment. And he said, nope, nothing never happened, isn't happening, is not a thing. The referees, like union or whatever it is, came out and they're like, we
Mhm.
absolutely do not do that and blah, blah, blah. And then last night, people were tweeting during the game, well, I guess, those of you who claim the referees were on Kansas City side can be quiet now. And I said, oh, you mean because they got called out on it? So now they got to prove they're not on his side. So now they ain't calling
Mhm.
nothing. Like it was the most bizarre game. I have
Mhm.
watched an awful lot of football this season, both Kansas City football and Philadelphia football. That was the most dominant performance Philadelphia's defense has given the entire season. Still don't know how little Cooper DeJean is old enough to shave, let alone play football. It was his 22nd birthday. Now, Rachel, serious question. If you score a pick six for your team to win the Super Bowl on your 22nd birthday, like, is that about as good as it gets? Like, is your
No.
life all downhill from now? At 20, that it?
Not if you win another one.
But is another one the same as doing it on your birthday?
Oh no, definitely not.
I just feel
Definitely,
like, dude, you're done. You're done.
definitely
Um,
not.
but it was, I don't know what was up. They had more turnovers than first downs in the first half. Pat Mahomes got sacked
Mhm.
6 times. Mahomes, I don't know what was wrong with Mahomes. I don't know. I don't want to say it was intentional. I'm not saying that he owes money to someone in Vegas. I'm just saying maybe that 2 weeks off and maybe Pat was reading a little bit of his own newspaper clippings and thought
Mhm.
it would just be that easy. It'll just be that easy to win the third one. I ain't got to practice. I ain't got to study. I ain't got to do nothing. I just got to show up. All I do is win, win, win. Swifties will be there. Travis will be like, I don't know that he took that game as seriously as some of the big men that I saw sitting on the sidelines was taking that game. I didn't feel at any point when the camera was on Mahomes that he understood what was going on. I think until the fourth quarter, he still thought that he was just spotting them and they were just going to come right back.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. I felt the same way too. That air, and I have an appreciation for Patrick Mahomes because I watched that. I don't know if you watched Receive Quarterback on Netflix. So, I never really liked him. I still kind of don't like him, but I gained a lot of respect for him,
I'm just tired.
after watching that series.
I'm just tired of him. I'm tired of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I was tired of
She's
the Patriots.
fatigue.
I got Chiefs fatigue. I was tired of the
Yeah.
Chiefs. I am now tired of the Chiefs. They were predicting this would be one of the lowest rated watched Super Bowls in like the last 20 years because then nobody except for Chiefs fans and Eagles fans care.
Uh huh.
People were rooting for the underdogs. They were rooting for, in the NFC, they were rooting for the Lions. In the AFC, they were rooting for the Bills. And when those two teams lost, a whole lot of people quit caring about football. And that just
Yeah.
is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it was. I love Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great quarterback. I'm shocked that he wasn't in the MVP conversations.
Mhm.
Yes, he had a very good game, but I will tell you what, it was that Eagles defense that won that trophy last night. It
Oh
was
my
not
God.
Jalen Hurts or anything he did or didn't do. It was them taking the ball away. It was the field position that offense got. It was everything that defense did to get in the heads of Kansas City and get them off the field. So their defense was tired when Jalen Hurts came on. I get why he got the MVP trophy because apparently you can't vote for the entire defense.
Yeah. He
You had to
made
pick
it look so
individual play.
effortless, though, Kate. He
There were
made it
more
look
votes for
effortless.
3 of their defensive players than there was for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. 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 It's a team effort.
It should have gone to the Jalen Hurts should have handed it to Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator, and said, "Dude, this is you." Whatever that defense was that showed up yesterday, I've seen little bits of it here and there during the season. That was insanely amazing last night. They owned that game from jump.
And what do they say? Defense wins
Yep.
championships.
And people argue with me all the time. I said it ain't pretty, it ain't flashy. And it also ain't often that you see a defense that dominant where you can't ignore it. Go back to some of the Bears teams in the 80s, the Ravens teams in the 2000s. There's always an impact from a defense. But the last few years, we've seen a lot of those Super Bowls that were like 40-34, 43-42, whatever, like high
Mhm.
scoring. I don't
Mhm.
think did the Chiefs even have a point before the fourth quarter? Like it wasn't even. It was like an Ohio State game. It was like watching
Yeah, they
Ohio
didn't.
State beat up somebody. It was. I almost couldn't watch it. By
They
the time
didn't
we
score
hit the
until
third
the
quarter, I
third
was like,
quarter.
I don't know if I can watch any more of this. It's just painful. Like, at what point do the Chiefs just throw in the towel like a boxer and go, you know what? We're done. We can
Well,
we
they were able to get to Mahomes
can't come.
early, often. They were able to intercept him down,
Yep.
in their territory. So it didn't take them nothing to score, and
And
the
the
Chiefs
final
are
was
not used to being
42.
rattled.
Yeah, the final was 40-22, but it wasn't never that close. If
No,
you
that
just
was
set
garbage
up
time. They got those
look at the
touchdowns.
final, you need to look at the box score. Because I think the Eagles were just getting tired by the fourth quarter. They're like, all right, we'll let you have a couple. It ain't like you're going to catch us. And they were
Hmm.
right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Defense was on
needed,
the field the whole time.
yeah, we need to talk about the halftime show.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
What
right,
are your
Rachel,
thoughts about the halftime show?
I didn't love it. Uh, what I look for in a halftime show is not necessarily what everyone else looks for. I look at Prince, still, in my opinion, the greatest halftime show of all time ever. Um, you may not know this about me, Rachel, but I'm an old white woman.
Yeah.
A whole lot of things go over my head that I don't get. Um, I know who Kendrick Lamar is. I listened to
Hmm.
his music in 2012. Um, but I didn't understand. I got some of the symbolism. I read a couple things
Hmm.
on Facebook today that made me go, "Oh, okay."
Hmm.
If I understand correctly, there was a whole lot of symbolism going on in the way that white America treats black America or people of color or people who are different.
Hmm.
And as I think about it, I can kind of get what he's saying. And
Hmm.
I'm gonna need you to explain some of it to me. I will say part of me is like, I don't want political statements in my halftime show. I just want to be entertained. At the same time, if you're a person with a minority voice and you get a platform, you need to use it to make a statement, whether I like it or not, whether I want to be entertained or not. If they gave him a platform to express the sentiments and the opinion that he expressed last night, I can't argue with that either. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, and I think it went over a lot of people's heads. Like I wasn't able to watch it because somebody was in my way, so I missed it. But the symbolism of the black people wearing the different colors of the flag,
Yep.
was about this country being built off the backs of black people.
Yep. What?
It,
And SZA was fully dressed.
Scissor was
She
in there.
she sang. Her voice is so beautiful. She sang. She looked amazing, but she was fully dressed. She wasn't like usually you get them scantily clad girls that are dancing in the background when
Yeah.
people are singing and stuff. And I saw a couple comments today about how um, it marginalizes women when you go all the way back to Janet Jackson, the wardrobe malfunction. When you put these women out there and they're barely wearing anything, she was fully dressed. She still looked beautiful and she sang like an angel. And all you focused on was her voice because you weren't distracted by whoever's idea it was to put him in next to nothing. So
Hmm.
I know who she is because my grandson's got a thing. My grandson Rafi loves him some SZA. He's like grandma. Goes to his videos all the time. He loves her. So I got that I knew who she was.
Yeah, so I guess when they say A minor, that has to do with pedophilia as well. I guess talking about the politicians and the accusation of Drake as well. So, girl, I really don't know. I don't
You
be
should
knowing about
watch
this
it because
music stuff.
He would do a Samuel L. Jackson was dressed as Uncle Sam,
Yes.
talked, and then we did a song, and then he talked, and it felt like he was doing almost an Uncle Tom thing, like an old, you can't do that. You got to do what, the white guy says. And so he was
Hmm.
trying to like explain, and then Kendrick would sing again. And then slowly they like converted him over to understanding.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? If you watch the whole thing, I was thinking about a little bit of it. And then I was reading a bunch of things on Facebook today where people were trying to explain it. And
Hmm.
I think I'm going to share a couple of them because I have an awful lot of friends that I know didn't get it.
Hmm.
And some of them won't get it, even if I find someone that can explain it to them because they just don't want to get it. You and
Yeah,
I
they'll
have
find a reason
a lot.
not to.
Some people just don't want to get it. But I do have friends who would want to understand. And so for them, I'm going to go find some more of these things, kind of explaining each area, what the lyrics meant, what the song meant, what the point was, and kind of share it out with them, because there's some of the things I read, there's a lot of power in what he was doing and the way he was doing it, but it's going to go unnoticed, I think, sadly, by the people that should notice it. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm. But it's a
So,
lot easier to ignore racism than
yep.
to, because I
Oh,
mean, how about your
here's what.
president is here and you have to remove in racism from the end zones
Yeah.
for him?
I think he was the first sitting president to actually attend a Super Bowl. I
He
was
was.
surprised he was there. From a security standpoint, that could not have been easy. I can't imagine what the American public just spent on ensuring his safety in that venue.
Mhm. It was
You
a
know?
ton of money. They had a breakdown today on Facebook. It was a ton of money
Yep.
just for him to
Yep.
go to a game that he don't care about. It was all about optics.
Oh,
Whenever he goes to a game, it's just
yep.
about optics. And
Yep.
Chris Jones ran over to shake his hand and stuff like that, and he ended up having to leave the game. He didn't come back in, did he?
No, and I'll tell you, I saw that. I was afraid the Secret Service was going to draw down on him. I'm like, dude, you can't be running up on the president. I know you're in a football uniform, but they don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think the Chiefs rebound from this loss? I think they absolutely do.
I do. I'm just waiting to see when the Meatloaf song memes are going to come out, because he had that famous song that people my age know called 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad.
Oh, okay.
Remember that one? I want
No,
you,
I've never heard that
but
one
there ain't
before.
no way I'm ever going to love you. Don't be sad.
But
Bad.
they was crying on the bench and
They were.
stuff. Like I wasn't expecting that.
But again, if you look at it, it was the players, the linemen that were. I didn't see Pat Mahomes crying on the sideline.
Mm-mm, nope.
He I just don't think he took that game as seriously as everybody else did. I really don't. And I'll tell you what else irritated me, Rachel L. Hill. Listening to Tom Brady talk about how devastating it is and how there's nothing worse than waking up on a Monday after losing the Super Bowl. I'm like, bruh, have you survived the 16 season? What? 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 No, there's nothing more devastating in football than losing the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me?
Well, he had lost a couple of them,
That's
so
some entitled white boy mentality right there. I'm sorry. That's what that is. It
Yeah,
must
he on
be
one
nice if that's
seven.
the worst thing that happened to you is you lost the Super Bowl. I won
Mm-hmm.
1 in 31, bruh.
Yeah, I know.
1 in 31.
And you see Bill at the NFL honors wearing his 8 rings.
No, did you see Bill at the NFL honors with his 24-year-old girlfriend?
I know. I
You
know.
know, Rachel. You know she with him for the size of his bank account, right? Because there can't be another reason why.
I
There
know.
can't.
I know.
Just, it's embarrassing and it's shameful, and I don't know why. Clearly, he doesn't have friends. Because if he had friends, they would say, dude, you can't take your granddaughter to the Super Bowl.
Bill don't seem like the type of guy that you can really reason with. So seems like he's gonna do what he want to do. I know. I know. Let's take a quick break right quick and then we're gonna get into these calves. How about that?
I
Let's
love
talk
that
about
idea.
Yeah, let's talk about some winners.
Let's
All
talk
right, you're listening to Her
trade
and the
deadline
Huddle. Huh?
stuff.
Huh?
Talk about the trade.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about all that. All
Already.
right, we'll be right back. You okay? No, had no fear. Mm. All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports with Cleveland Kate, and we are about to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. There's no such thing as a dead zone in sports. So right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the winning team tonight. They take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And right now, Anthony Edwards is a game time decision, one of the best players in all of the NBA. So we definitely want to see that matchup between him and Donovan Mitchell, but he is questionable. So not entirely sure if he's going to be able to play tonight. Cleveland K, what is your prediction for tonight's game?
A victory by 17 points.
Ooh, 17 points. That's a good one.
I'm calling it. Book it, Dano. Girl, there's crazy stuff going on in the NBA in the last couple weeks. The trading, some of the things that went down at the trade deadline. I don't know which was the bigger story. Was the Luka Doncic trade to the Lakers, or the fact that his Jason Kidd didn't nobody know. Kevin Durant found out sitting on the bench getting ready to play another game when someone showed him like the entire league. There was the most hilarious Facebook thread. Someone said, explain the Luka Doncic trade to a girl who doesn't like sports. And some stuff they wrote was hysterical. Like, they were quoting the movie Mean Girls. You traded Regina George and got Katie Heron. Or dollars on cake and got an Oreo cookie, or like there was just a whole bunch of girl things. You traded the family cow for a bag of magic beans. Like, I feel bad for Anthony Davis because he was definitely getting the short end of that. But I still don't understand the trade. I don't understand how they got the NBA to agree to it because the association's got to approve all those. Usually you see those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 team trades that are so confusing, and draft picks for every other year for the next 10 years and just insane stuff. That it was shocking, and it was bittersweet because my daughter and her boyfriend's sister are huge fans of Luka. They love them some Luka. They were trying to get tickets to go see because the Cavs were playing the Mavs that night, and they ended up, they didn't want to pay what it was going to cost them to go, which ended up being a good thing because he wasn't here. Because that was the day of the trade, right?
Yeah, and they did the press conference about it in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So that's how you know how crazy it was. Because
all right, well, I don't think the Cavs are going to do anything at the trade deadline because you know me. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This team's playing really well. We're winning games. We got some injuries, but we got a 10-man lineup, and Kenny Atkinson is my new favorite head coach ever, and I just love what he's doing with this team. And then they made a deal. And I still don't understand all the terms of the deal because I think there were multiple teams involved in future draft picks and all that craziness that you see in the NBA. But one of my favorite players is gone, and I get it, and I understand it, and it's business. But I liked him. I know you weren't a big fan.
Of who?
Okoro.
Oh, he's still here? What you talking about? He ain't went nowhere?
LeVert?
No, you said Okoro.
No, LeVert.
Oh, okay, Karis LeVert. I like Karis. I actually had a story to tell him.
No.
But he's always getting treatment.
Okoro when I mean Karis. I get the Karis LeVert. I liked him.
I liked Karis too. He
But
always was getting treatment in a lot, getting
yeah,
treatment, so he would never be really be out in time that we were there. You know what I'm saying? So I had a story to tell him. So my friend, Gerald Levert was his cousin. His
yeah,
family member. Gerald Levert, the
yep.
singer. So my friend built her house on his old land. So his house burnt down or whatever, and they built a house on the old land. So they so her husband's out in the yard or whatever. So this old white lady pull up and she's like, I used to love Levert so much. He was my favorite singer. Can I have some dirt from here, your house? And he was like, no. So she, had to leave. And I'm like, he should have gave her some dirt. It's dirt. It ain't hurt
That
nobody.
would have been hilarious.
So I didn't get a chance to tell Karis the story about that. I thought he would have
You should
laughed.
sell jars of Gerald Levert dirt on eBay.
That's what she said her kids should do. Call it Levert's dirt,
Levert's
and
dirt.
then make a little bit of
You
money.
buy them little glass bottles that so you're bourbon or other whiskeys. They have what's called a handshake bottle. I think it's 2 or 3 ounces. It's only this big. You can buy like a set of 8 of them on Amazon for like $5 or super cheap. And then you pour bourbon in it or liquor in it and give it to your friends if they want to try something instead of buying the whole bottle. You're like, oh, I got a bottle here. Let me give you a little bit. They call it a handshake, and you can
Uh-huh.
they can get a couple samples to try and see what you like before you actually go buy a whole bottle. You can get those cheap on Amazon and put Levert's dirt in it.
I'm like, why wouldn't he give
Well,
him some
better
dirt?
have
Like it's
dirt.
just dirt. So I didn't get a
No,
chance to
I'll
tell
tell
him
you.
that story.
Oh, white women are crazy.
She was like, he was my favorite singer. I loved it. I thought the
I
story
think
was
that's
cute.
hilarious. I love it too.
I know. So she didn't get any dirt. So I was gonna tell Karis that. And when he actually was in the locker room the last time, it was against Boston and they lost. And I was like, he probably don't want to hear the story. And then the next thing I know, he got traded. I heard Max Struess is not doing well, with his boy George Niang getting traded. So yeah, I
That
hear he
was
he ain't doing
well
too
because I'm
good with
so used
that.
to him and Tristan on the post game show
Hmm.
on 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 the sports FanDuel Sports Network or whatever it is.
Hmm.
They after they're done talking, they'll usually if it's a home game go to the locker room and talk to Tristan and George, and he's just got a ton of personality, and
Hmm.
they were both the two of them were fun to listen to. Uh,
Hmm.
and I thought he was a very solid bench player coming in for minutes and stuff. I feel bad for guys like that because this team has a chance to
Hmm.
go to the finals and win a ring, and you don't get nothing, even though you were here for the first half of the year. Like,
Hmm.
I know it's a business. I get that. But I feel bad. I feel like they were contributing. I don't
Hmm.
know that what we got fills any special need. It feels more like we just made a move to make a move. But
Well, they
this
said that
that you
you
can't risk bringing someone into a locker room, especially a basketball locker room, because it is so small, right? This ain't football where you got 53 guys in there. It's a basketball. What do you got, 11, 12? Like, it is such a small, tight knit group of guys that
mhm.
you bring in somebody who's got some issues that could quickly become a problem in the locker room, could quickly screw up all your chemistry. Man, I'm going to say it again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. When nothing broke with this team, we'll see.
They said he's a solid dude, so I take relish in that fact. But one of the things is, he feels a need that, he's going to get you about 19, 20 points a game and possibly get them over the hump against Boston. You think about, if Evan Mobley had a better game, they would have went Boston and went for his average.
Yeah. Did he go to college with Evan Mobley?
No, he went to college with
The guy saying they went to college and played together.
yes, he did not. He went to Virginia when they won the championship in 2019 with Ty Jerome.
Hi, Jerome. Okay. I
So
was
they
trying
were teammates
to.
for Ty Jerome. So that helps a
Yep.
little bit with the chemistry factor,
Yep.
putting them right there.
Yep.
So that'll help a little bit. So somebody having a previous relationship, because you're right about the chemistry, about how important that is. Donovan talked about that, and this was a close knit locker room. Being in there with them, they love each other. They're brothers. You know what I'm saying? They're always messing with each other. You can't get through an
Yeah.
interview without somebody
I love
interrupting the interview.
Serena Williams trying to do those on the court after a game, and there's all this stuff going on behind her, and they're trying to make, Donovan or Evan or whoever she's talking to, Darius, laugh and doing stuff. I love that because they're still having fun. And I think
Hmm.
that's so important. It's not enough to just head down, grind it out, get it done. You have to enjoy the game and enjoy what you're doing. It's a game at the same time that it's a job. And I think that is going to be one of the things that really propels this team because they are all still having a good time. And I love Kenny Atkinson. I love the fact that even when they win, he finds things that they could have done better, and the players know there are things they could have done better because there's going to be games where they have to do those things better because it's not going to be an easy win. And I love that they take the little things and the fundamentals very seriously and appreciate how important they are. So I enjoy watching them play. It's difficult at my house because my husband has become he's always been a rabid basketball fan, but now he's a vocal one. And so now I got to deal with him screaming at the TV and the refs and the coach and the players about
Hmm.
what they're doing. And I'm like, am I this
Yeah.
bad football season? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, but in my defense, it's one day a week.
Yeah. Did Joe play basketball? He kind of tall.
So he's 6'7". He played basketball in high school, and then his sophomore year, one of the upperclassmen didn't appreciate him being so young and starting, and slammed him into the boards and shattered his left kneecap. So he had to have surgery and has not played basketball since, other than pickup games with the kids. And I think he loved it, but it was hard for him to watch for a lot of years because
Yeah.
it wasn't his choice not to play. It wasn't like he played and they said you're not good enough or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think it's harder when it's an injury that takes you out before you know if you could have played or not. But clearly we are past it because he is just loving. It was started last year. I noticed it, and now this year is loving the Cavaliers and is just. We are watching every single game, minute, end to end, wire to wire, every single point, minute, second of the games. I'm like, wow, I thought I was bad about football, but again, that's one day a week. I get two,
So
three
what
games.
happened with this kid that did this?
Nothing. It was just in a game. It was just, we're just playing. It was also 1980, and we didn't have victims in the 80s. You just sucked it up and went on with your day. I think if a kid did that to someone now, like it would be assault and it would be a whole big deal. But back then, you're playing ball, whether it's in the gym or, on a playground or where it was, stuff happens, and you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
he doesn't talk about it much, but I can tell just by the fact that he's 60 and he's now able to actually enjoy basketball that maybe he's finally over it. You
Oh
know what
man,
I mean? Yeah.
that's crazy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm sure there are lots of people out there who have similar stories, probably more in football.
Uh huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That three in high school or in college that ended your career before you even really had a chance to know if you had what it takes to make it.
Mhm. Yeah, so All Star break is coming up, so it gives a little bit of time for the Cavaliers to, soak it in a little bit, get a little bit of a break, and then they, have to deal with the rest of the season. What, now that they made this move and they can move forward, what do you think that they need to focus on as they, get ready for the playoffs?
So I think getting healthy is absolutely important. Struess and a couple of the other guys just don't, they're not recovering quickly, or they're back and they're not playing as well as they did before. So I think staying healthy is important. This 10-man rotation that Kenny Atkinson has going is genius. It's brilliant. I bet you we see a whole lot of other teams trying to do this. They don't have the depth of talent we have. I don't need a bench guy that can score 40 points. I only need 12 or 13 for my bench guys because I got 5 of them that can do that, right? So I think that's important.
Hmm.
And I think they need to really focus more on shot selection. What I see is we talk about that Boston game and some of the other games this season where you live by the three and you die by the three. If you are not hitting those threes early in the game, continuing to shoot them is not going to help your accuracy. They just need to accept it ain't my night for threes. I need to dribble drive. I need to get in the lane. I need to do what else I need to do to create shots and get points. Instead, they get sucked into what I call the quicksand of threes. They keep trying to take them because they're like, eventually one will go down. No, they won't. No, that statistically, if you look at them individual games, they're either hitting them or they're not. And if it's a game where you're hitting them, have at it, go crazy, be wild. But if it's a game where you're not, somebody needs to recognize that, you know what, this ain't your night and you need to go do something else. Boston is a team that lives and dies by the threes. And on the days when they're not hitting them, they're awful. When they are, they're almost unbeatable. But maybe you need to focus on better ways to defend the three instead of more ways to take the three shots.
Because our perimeter defense, that's the worst. Yeah. Did you watch the game Saturday night between the Knicks and Boston?
Yes.
Oh God, man, where they was jaying them from, I'm like, oh my God, like the Cavs, when they miss badly, and I'm like, they need to be on point when they face Boston, and more than likely they're going to be facing Boston probably in a 7-game series, hopefully in the Eastern Conference Finals. And, they have to bring everything they have. And, people are saying, the regular season don't matter. Of course, because Boston is 5 games down, so I hate that. But the regular season does matter for seeding and, stuff like that. So
you absolutely want to be at home. The regular season absolutely matters. You want to be at home. You want whatever edge you can get by having the best record in the East at the end of the season. And if that means you're the number 1 seed and you get a bye or you get home all the way through, you have to take those little bit of advantages because those can change a series. Having to play 4 in Boston is not the same as only having to play 3 there. That's a huge advantage to get that 4th game here.
Yep. And then right now the Grizzlies are 42-9 with an 824 win percentage, and then the Cavs are 8.08 at 42-10. So you definitely if the Thunder make it to the finals. There's no guarantee. They're going to have to face some teams that have more experience than them. They could get past Dallas last year. I think an OKC Cleveland series would be phenomenal, but that's jumping way ahead of myself. So, I can't do that.
Yeah, I think we match up favorably against OKC. But what I want to see, what I'm interested to find out is you get a lot of teams who are one team in the first half of the year, and then they come back from the All-Star break, and for better or worse, they're a completely different team the second half. Can they maintain who they are through the second half? I think they can. Are teams like Boston going to be able to continue at the pace they're at? Is OKC going to continue? Are some of these teams that have not played well going to figure it out and start, rising to the challenge? So I'm interested to see who shows up for the second half of the season.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's it. It was great having you back. We've missed you so much. It's wonderful to be able to chop it up with you again. And, I thank you for everything. And you've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. And we are out of here. Ooh. Thank you, Boo Thing. I'm glad. I'm glad you're here.
My iPhone. All right. Oh, okay. I'm learning my iPhone will do different images if I do hand things, but I don't have a list, so it's random. You're still live. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye. Bye.